not move from your chair. Please do not move from your chair. Graduates, please do not move from your chair. About to start. Please don't move from your chair. Asingasuki esihlalweni zethu. Imnandi yona kodwa singasuki esihlalweni zethu. Ungasuki esihlalweni sakho at the back. On my far right, don't move from your chair. The last session for Commerce, Administration and Law. Ngicela umuntu angayilahli iposition yakhe because iseat esikubeke kuyona iyona uzohamba ngayo la ehall uzuphume. Ngicela niqoka ama-hood ma-graduates nonke. Uma ubona umakhelwane egqokile akulona iphutha nawe egqoka. Nibe bahle phela nizala istage. Ningakhohlwa ibox yokuqala niyayikhipha imask. Uyibuyisele uqhubeke kwibox yesibili uyikhiphe because nithatha izithombe lapho. Musu usuka kweyesibili uyigqoke uphume. Wehle ngasandleni sami sokudla. Udlule kwi-office la ka-register uma ki-register. Kancane. Udlule officeini la ka-register uma ki-register. Angithi siyazwana.
By virtue of the powers conferred upon me as the acting Chancellor of the University of Zululand, I hereby consecute this congregation for the conferment of degrees and awarding of diplomas and certificates. You may be seated. The motto of the sector remains that of saving lives and the academic project. It is with this in mind and respecting the sanctity of life, the proceedings of the graduation have been altered to ensure that we remain compliant with the protocols to address the pandemic. Graduates are expected to have worn their hoods as they approach the stage. Thank you very much.
I'm reading from the first short 9 verses of Luke 16. There was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possession. So he called him in and asked, "What is it that I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be a manager anymore." The dishonest manager, not knowing what to do, he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe your master?" 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly and make it 450. Then he asked the second, "And how much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, "Take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. Let us pray. Compassionate Jesus, you showed concern for your people who were in debt, doing hard labor and being excluded from banquets and the houses of the rich. You also fought for the rights of your people who were burdened by rent, tithes, taxes, and tariffs. Your leadership style highlighted the significance of using discernment while dealing with others rather than attempting to control them. We now ask you to grace us with your presence as we begin these proceedings, so that we may be inspired by the messages that will be delivered to us this day. May each graduandi feel proud and enjoy celebrating their success. Lord, we trust that you have a good plan in mind for these graduates, because the job situation is tough these days. We hope that you'll make the route plain for them, whether the job they take is a stepping stone or a position where they can establish roots. Assist them in finding careers and jobs that will allow them to be blessed, as well as to be a blessing to people around them. Work in the details behind the scenes to give them peace of mind, knowing that if their spirits are linked with your spirit, they are on the right track. Lord, we humbly beseech you that these graduates may be counted amongst the heroes and heroines who will help shape and turn around the economy of our collapsing state. We pray that they may be appointed to positions that will have involved them in turning around our SOEs. Make them reputable lawyers who know their story so that they may not be embarrassed during court proceedings. We pray that amongst these graduates, shrewd business managers and CEOs may be born who will not lord it over your people. We finally pray that you may raise up exceptional leaders of the public sector so that we may yield the fruits of unqualified audits, transparency, accountability, service delivery, and tougher actions taken against those whose demons keeps on whispering on their ears, get rich quickly by creating dodgy tenders and bogus companies to squander the resources set for the poor, the orphans, and those suffering from COVID-19. Please accept our heartfelt gratitude in advance through Jesus Christ, the greatest economist, administrator, and lawyer, who was endowed with good interpersonal and communication skills, a good judge of character, who served the public interest, followed ethical standards, was accountable and objective, who persevered through unfavorable conditions, and was creative in nature. Amen.
Chancellor of the University of Zululand, Chairperson of Council of the University, members of University Council, members of Executive and Management Committee, including our deans, dignitaries and honored guests, staff and students of the university, ladies and gentlemen, most importantly, our graduands. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this important event in the almanac of the university. The significance of today's achievement is a mark of perseverance against the formidable odds. This starts with schooling. Research shows that learners who make it to higher education represent about 50% of the cohort that started in grade 1. Let me put it sharply by way of example. Of the 1.4 million children who enrolled in grade 1 in 1998, only 552,000 made it to matric in 2009. This means close to 1 million children are swallowed into the big dark hole every year. Of this, a fraction makes it to tertiary. According to Higher Education South Africa, under 1/3, that is 33.3% of students, complete their studies in regulation time. Our graduation rate of 15% is among the lowest in the world. These statistics are shocking, but they underscore the fact that yours is no mean achievement. You represent a very small minority of the elite and privileged in your society. Today's graduations are significant as they come at a time when the country and the whole world are grappling with the onset of the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has had disastrous effect on teaching and learning. You succeeded despite having to contend with the odds of having to study remotely, disconnected from your lecturers and your fellow students. And still, you prevailed. But I want to cast your achievement differently. To speak about graduation as the beginning of an obligation. Many of you here are beneficiaries of some form of scholarship or another. Many of you, if not all of you here, succeeded because of the efforts of your parent, sibling, teacher, neighbor, friend, sponsors that believed in you. They took a chance on you. We are grateful that you didn't disappoint. As a beneficiary of the kindness of others, expectations are that you will do the same. It is the only way that we can make this world a better place. It is by being generous with our time and service. In doing so, we would be responding to the call best captured by former President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, when he declared, I quote, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country," close quotes. In these perilous and difficult times, when all about us seem to collapse, we have an obligation to keep hope alive and to give hope a chance. This graduation, taking place in the grip of a devastating epidemic, is on its own an expression of that hope. We have lived through it by being responsible, adhering to the medical protocols that we crafted for our benefit. We cannot afford to take that lightly. we need to keep reminding ourselves that we are the lucky ones. For the grace of God, we were spared. We thus cannot afford the luxury of being disconnected with the great social upheaval of our times. We, who are the children of the poor, cannot and should not shy away from responding to the needs of the still marginalized in our communities. We need to see the patterns and linkages between diseases and poverty, the relationship between social justice and life expectancy, and how the battle is about dignity and human rights, as Larry Brilliant would put it. It is worth stating that service is at the center of our strategic plan. The plan seeks, among other things, to transform our university into an institution which in the first instance serves the needs of an African constituency and intellectually wears the vestments of its social environment. An institution which responds to the needs of the society in which it is located and helps to transform for the better lives of the people in whose preoccupation and location it is embedded. I would be remiss if I do not commend the faculties and supervisors for sustaining the project of knowledge creation. This year, we have a sizable number of doctoral candidates. 24 come from the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. 7 come from the Faculty of Science, Agriculture, and Engineering. 14 from the Faculty of Education. And finally, 3 from the Faculty of Commerce, Administration, and Law. Deans of faculties, you have outdone yourselves. I think that we should give them a very big round of applause. Can we? Thank you. As we prepare ourselves for a life of service, let us be inspired by the words of Martin Luther King, Jr. King had this to say, I quote, "If it falls to your lot to be a street sweeper, sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, 'Here lived a great sweeper who swept his job well.'" Thank you very much, and congratulations.
I request Mr. Gabby Tono Magamolu to come to the stage for reading his biography. Mr. Magamolu. Gabby Tono Magamolo, Director of Development Bank of Southern Africa, is one of South Africa's respected business leader, an ex-banker and an author. He has also been at the forefront of the campaign for the struggle of economic liberalization before and after the demise of apartheid. After overcoming the hardships of prison life on Robben Island in the 60s, Magamolo left South Africa for the United States, where he rose to become an acclaimed banker at the world head office of Citibank in New York. He was later transferred to Wall Street, where he rubbed shoulders with top investment bankers and stockbrokers. It was during that period that he and his family acquired a permanent resident status in the United States. Magamolo's passion for his country brought him and his family back to South Africa in the mid-80s, where he joined Barclays Bank as special assistant to the managing director. Years later, he was appointed CEO of African Bank to lead it out of curatorship and grow its systems, its brand, and people. All of these accomplishments were made during the dark days of apartheid, and many have attested to his capacity or capability to lead, to develop, and to innovate. It was during these years that Mr. Magamolo became a vocal critic against discriminatory business practices. In 1986, he defied the government's segregationist residential laws by moving his family to a whites-only suburb, Sandton. This move was hailed as a critical bridgehead for the birth of a new black middle class in South Africa, as it encouraged other aspiring black South Africans to do likewise. Mr. Magamolo was accepted as a member of the Institute of Directors in 1987 and has been at the forefront of corporate government development throughout this period. At the dawn of democracy, Mr. Magamolo was requested by the Minister of Finance to help advise government and to deploy to configure and to help develop systems in some of the provinces. Later, he was appointed the Special Advisor to National Transport Minister to help provide fundamental innovation within the minibus taxi industry, while he was also the chairman of the Foundation for Business and Consumer Services. It was during this period that he conceptualized and co-funded Future Bank. His entrepreneurial record during the 1990s helped to bring the disenfranchised into the center court of big business, where he served as chairman and director of a variety of companies. Mr. Magamolo has mentored a number of senior business leaders who continue to make a significant contribution to economic transformation in South Africa. Magamolo's life is well captured in his award-winning autobiography, From Robben Island to Wall Street, published by his alma mater, the University of South Africa. He's founder chairman of the South African Business Coalition Against HIV/AIDS, an ex-member of the University of Cape Town's Foundation Board, and is founder member and past chairman of the National Black Business Caucus, as well as a co-founder of the Black Business Council. For his life achievement, Mr. Magamolo has received numerous awards, including the Fulbright Hays Fellowship. He has been profiled in many publications, including the Wall Street Journal, Financial Mail, London Observer, and more recently, Forbes Africa. He's also a director of several companies, including one listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and was awarded the Business Legend Award, Freedom of the City of Birmingham in the USA, and the Hidden Ring Award for his recent scholarly book, Robben Island to Wall Street. We shall now proceed with the conferring of the Honorary Doctorate in Economics. Acting Chancellor, I present Mr. Gabi Tomo Mogamolo for the conferring of the Honorary Doctorate.
By virtue of the power vested in me, I confer the Honorary Doctorate, Doctor of Commerce Economics, to Mr. Gabi Mahomora. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Mahomora. Dr. Mohomola, congratulations.
Now I can ask Dr. Gabi Mogamolo to have a discussion and speak to our students and our guest, Dr. Mogamolo.
Chancellor, as well as Vice Chancellor, acknowledgements to the University of Zululand Chairperson of Council, Ms. N. Kaluza, and of course the Acting Chancellor, Vice Chancellor Professor Mtoze, Acting Vice Chancellor Professor Nomfomo, Deputy Vice Chancellors Professors Kunene and Professor Siepe, all members of the University Council who are present here, and those who are watching this ceremony virtually. University executives with whom we are captaining this ship with, as two deans of various faculties, management committee members, members of the University Senate, members of the institutional forum, our academic and support staff colleges, President of Convocation, Mr. Nkonyama, and members of Convocation, as well as my fellow graduates. Good morning. I would like to address you this morning, with your permission, Chancellor, on the case for government intervention in the South African economy. This morning, I stand before you, Chancellor, first of all, to express my gratitude for inviting me to the University of Zululand to accept the award of the honorary doctoral degree in economics and commerce, conferred upon me a few minutes ago. And secondly, to deliver the keynote address as the Dean has requested me to. I am particularly humbled by the generosity of the nominating committee and the University Council and all of you who made this possible for me. It is my understanding that an honors degree, particularly a doctoral honors degree, is the highest honor that a university can bestow on anyone. I would also like to take a moment to thank my parents and all those who have contributed to my development and influenced me in a variety of ways. And this includes my wonderful wife who is here today with us. Thank you very much. And my children who accompany me here, and all my friends. A special thank you for those who helped me and helped to nurture me on Robben Island inside those prison cells where I entered as a teenager in the 1960s, lost in the passion for freedom from injustice. Many of those that nurtured me have since passed on to the next world. It is a pleasure to be here today and to be invited to address you, ladies and gentlemen, and an extraordinary privilege to receive this honorary doctorate from this outstanding institution. It struck me during my research to discover the fantastic service rendered by this institution to our republic and its citizens over the years. The University of Zululand has produced several outstanding citizens who have contributed immensely to the welfare and economy of this country. My life, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, has been one of active and consistent resistance against injustice as well as prejudice. First in the political arena, and then later on in my life in the business sector. I have also lived a life of privilege and realized quite early that with privilege comes responsibilities. In choosing a topic this morning, I felt it would be important to deal about something that is topical. I have thought deeply about our country and the debates that are raging to find a lasting solution, particularly to our economic challenges. There are those who feel that government should play a more active role, and yet others feel that government should be less intrusive in the economy if we are to resolve our challenges. This reminds me of my own intensive discussions with President Mandela when we exchanged views on the role of government in a new South Africa shortly after he was released from Robben Island. I was but one of many business leaders that he was consulting with during that period. Prior to this, I had last seen President Mandela on Robben Island at what we call the Old Tronk section in 1964, where some of us were kept. The choice of my topic this morning is the role of government in a developmental economy like ours. The role of government intervention in the economy has been debated amongst economic theorists and academic scholars since the 18th century. There are three main angles to this debate. The first was led by the classical theory pioneers such as Adam Smith, often referred to as the father of economics, and the likes of John Stuart Mill, who developed the ideas around economies of scale and opportunity cost, as well as comparative advantage in international trade policy. The fundamental principle of this school of thought is that the economy is self-regulating, and that is to mean markets can achieve maximum employment and growth on their own. According to this classical theory, there are self-adjusting mechanisms in the market that rebalance the economy back to the natural level of the GDP. We must, however, remember that the rise of classical economic theory came at a time when Western capitalism and the Industrial Revolution were the order of the day, and there was an overall rejection of government interference in the economy. Classical economists wanted to transition away from a class-based monarchist system in favor of a looser market strategy, something they call laissez-faire. The second angle is found in the writings of John Maynard Keynes, the English economist, during the 1930s and 1940s, which challenged the classical theory of laissez-faire. A little-known fact about Keynes is that when the South African Reserve Bank was being established in the early 1920s, Chancellor, Jan Smuts, who was Prime Minister then, asked him to be part of the committee that helped to select our first governor of the South African Reserve Bank, Mr. William Henry Clerk. Keynes battled against this laissez-faire mindset and would later go on to lay bare his ideas of this school of thought in the seminal work titled The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money. Now, the economy students would know that. That was basically a homage to Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity, if you recall that. Keynesians placed a greater role for expansionary fiscal policy with government that must spend through, that can influence the economy through spending and taxes. Economic historians have labeled the period 1951 to 1973 as the golden age of Keynes due to the relatively high average global growth, low unemployment, reduction of economic inequality, and the lowering of public debt. Now, I lived through this period, and I can attest to the fact that during those times, there was very little economic crisis globally. So therefore, the Keynesian school is often associated with an interventionist approach, and this is important because I want to come back to it at the closing of this address. Finally, the monetary school of thought that was introduced by Professor Milton Friedman from Chicago believed that government intervention in the form of government spending caused inflation. I entered business school in America during the mid-1970s, around the period that Dr. Friedman's policies were a huge source of discussion and debate amongst many of us, the students. Monetarists placed emphasis on the role of money and its supply and demand in the economy. Dr. Milton, the Nobel Prize winner, became tied to the school following his seminal work in a paper titled Studies in the Quantitative Theory of Money. And by the way, he also did a 100-year study of the American economy from 1867 to 1960 to study the concept of money supply and growth and demand. Milton argued that in the long run, growth in money supply will increase prices, but has little or zero effect on the growth of the economy. In the short run, though, growth in money supply causes employment and output to increase. Dr. Friedman believed that monetary policy was so important to the health of an economy that he publicly blamed the Federal Reserve Bank for causing the Great Depression, implying that it is up to the Federal Reserve to regulate the economy. Both the Keynesian and monetary school of thought directly impacted the way in which policymakers in governments today continue to craft their policies. Now, there are certain nuances between all different schools that should be considered, and I'd like to briefly discuss those. But ultimately, an argument for public intervention, in other words, government intervention in the economy, especially during crunch times, makes sense to me, and it should make it to you as well. I will now briefly argue for the intervention of the government in this economy in order to allay the problems of what was earlier described as a collapsing economy. Before the rise of classical economics, most economies followed a top-down command and control sort of monarchic government policy. And we have learned from what I've just said that about how classical economists favored minimal intervention by the public sector. They considered the core activities of the public sector, of the government, to be limited to the provision of essential services like building hospitals, schools, and clinics, the maintenance of law and order, and the defense of the country. According to the classical economists, that was the only role of government. But in the classical model, the economy can be seen as free-flowing, as we said, and prices and wages adjust freely to the ups and downs of demand over time. In other words, when times are good, wages and prices quickly go up, and when times are bad, wages and prices freely adjust downward. Now, the major assumption of this model is that the economy is always at full employment, meaning that all resources are utilized to full capacity. And this is not always the case, I argue, and others will. And the situation here in South Africa today affirms this notion. Note that the Keynesian school was born during and after the Great Depression. Keynes had argued that the depression was caused by lower aggregate demand in the economy, which contributed to a sharp decline in income and employment. As such, the economy would reach equilibrium at low levels of economic activity and high employment. Under the circumstances, therefore, there is a strong case for government intervention. That is, governments should borrow more to offset the fall of spending in the private sector and to give tax cuts as well as breaks. For example, people like Paul Samuelson and Richard Musgrave introduced the concept of a public good, which means that the government must provide for such good. This implied that without intervention, the market would undersupply such public goods. Today, apart from the usual monetary and fiscal policy interventions, we need to call on our government to fulfill an even larger social and developmental role, including infrastructure development. The earlier literature on economic development assumed that governments had the abilities that were lacking in the private sector, such as large amounts of cash and capital and expertise. But this view does not hold true today. Some even argue that resources can be greatly misallocated, often as a result of ineffective government policies, inefficient administrators, or just a pure lack of funding, which is often misdirected. So, going towards the end, let's deal with the role of government and SOEs. I come from an SOE, as you heard before, but a well-managed and competitive one, the Development Bank of South Africa. To further illustrate the case for more government intervention, countries today, especially developing economies, continue to rely heavily on the public sector to provide basic services. To overcome the burden of inefficiencies, countries such as ours have created what we call state-owned entities with specialized skills to extend the government's ability to deliver services. And some countries have also advocated for more public-private partnerships in the developmental and infrastructure space. This approach seeks to share responsibility between the state and the private sector and effectively optimize the strengths that both parties bring to the table while holding each other accountable, which they should. And of course, lately we have heard about how government is thinking about advocating for such public-private partnerships. In our country, the government has often intervened into the economy through spending, through relief and social upliftment, even though over the past 29 years since democracy, governments increased by over 1,000% from 120 billion in 1994 to 1.6 trillion today. Although that's the case, the economy is still far from solving unemployment, inequality, and poverty and child. All of these market failures must be rectified in the economy. And development financial institutions are specifically created to play this role. Whether this is happening sufficiently, I will not debate this at this function. It's safer not to. Despite ongoing government resource allocation concerns, DFIs continue to be ideally situated, Chancellor, to play a role, and a key one at that, in high-risk long-term capital funding space, while commercial banks go on with their job of focusing on short-term funding because they are faced with lowered risk in that arena. In times of crisis and when it matters most, they have the capacity to appropriate funding and support social and economic development. Finally, I would be remiss not to continue to advocate for a more vigorous application of the use of public procurement to drive the government's policy of broad-based Black economic empowerment. If you have heard me say that before, please know that I will still say it tomorrow. I am quite encouraged by the meaningful inclusion of Black-owned as well as women-owned entities, Chancellor, in the Renewable Energy IPP Procurement Program Round 5 of 2021. Once again, this has been made possible by the intervention of some DFIs, which have provided the required planning, the required project preparation, as well as significant funding for broad-based Black entities and women-owned companies. In conclusion, I'd like to just state that the counter-cyclical role of government intervention, especially in times of crisis and when private sector participation is limited, cannot be overemphasized. Let me now turn my attention to the graduating class of 2022. You must be heartily congratulated for the hard work you have put in your studies and generally the work you have put in whatever you did. The years of hardship, the years of turmoil, I might remind you, it's often at great cost to your parents and your sponsors and yourselves, have paid off today. We are proud of your achievements and look forward to you taking your rightful place in society to make anticipated contributions to your communities and the country at large. Let me tell you this. Yesterday, as I drove this way towards the university, and I went past all the rolling hills as well as the massive sugarcane fields of the north coast of KZN, and as I passed the homestead of the late Chief Albert Luthuli, I couldn't but recall the words of Senator Robert Kennedy, the Democrat congressman from New York, who, when he was here, met Chief Albert Luthuli in 1966. Speaking at the University of Cape Town, Robert Kennedy had this to say, and I quote, "Each time," and this applies more to our graduates, "each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, that man or woman sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance." I close quote. This class of 2022, Chancellor, here before us, must strive to send out that ripple of hope to our challenged country. Go out there and heal the mindless violence that has gripped our nation. Accelerate economic progress. Liberate the capacity of human talent that your studies have cultivated in you. Help to re-energize our moribund economies and industries. Seek not to emulate our errors by acquiring business stakes in other people's businesses, but rather create that which is your own. It is you, the young people of this country, who must take the lead now. Eradicate ignorance and become beacons of light. Remember, upon you is thrust a greater burden of responsibility to fix that which previous generations, like my own, has broken. If you do that and inspire yourself with a vision of enlightenment, you and those who follow will be hugely rewarded. Go out and be that tiny ripple of hope, because history is always the final judge of our deeds. I thank you, Madam Chancellor.
We shall now proceed with conferring degrees and our diplomas and certificates. I request the candidates to take up their positions. I shall then call on the Dean of the faculty to present the candidates for various degrees and diplomas.
By virtue of the power vested in me, I confer the degrees to candidates whose names appear on the program.
I now have the honor to request the Dean of the Faculty of Commerce, Administration and Law to present the graduates to you.
Acting Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you postgraduate degree candidates.
I confer the degrees and awards, diplomas, and certificates to candidates whose names appear on the program.
Doctor of Commerce,
I confer the degree of Doctor of Commerce on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Chililu Thomas Ratsilane. The title of the dissertation, Investigating the Congruence of Vision, Mission, and Motto Statements on Strategic Intent and Allegiance of National Departments in South Africa. The study was done under the supervision of Dr. Ayendibo. I will now ask the supervisor to read the citation.
Thank you, Prof. Krelin. Various divisions of government departments working together to achieve a collective outcome has been a challenge due to complicated bureaucracy structures that do not have a common focus. The vision, mission, and motto statements of cluster departments often do not move in unison towards same strategic outcomes. The thesis found that management and staff were aware of overall vision, mission, and motto statements and their strategic role as compliance to strategic documents requirements. But this is not reflected in their daily operational duties. The research found poor congruence, convergence, and themes alignment, where only 57% of departmental cluster complied. Moreover, only 50% departmental statements were in alignment to the common purpose, while almost half were poorly crafted on readability. Additionally, only 40% of motto statements existed in departments, and it should be included in the strategic planning hierarchy. This is the part of challenges of suboptimal performance. Then finally, the study found that compared to the private sector with government departments and the link to its constitutional and legal mandates, and its vision and mission were tenuous. The study made original contributions as to how departments can dismantle its silos mindset and work with divisions and other agencies to realize micro policies like the National Development Plan through infusing them into its strategic statements. An article has been published from this study. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Ratsilana. Dr. Ratsilana, congratulations.
Acting Chancellor, the next group is the Master of Commerce in Business Management.
I confer the degree of Master of Commerce, Business Management on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Professor Madigabal will read the names.
Mthobisi, cela inhlonipho, Vusmuzi, Zulu. Hloniphile Cleopatra Zwane.
Master of Commerce, Economics.
I confer the degree of Master of Commerce Economics on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Shelter Telile Nene. Khulekani Ignatius Ngulunga. Mbongeni Zwelakhe Ngubane.
Bachelor of Commerce, Honors in Economics.
I confer the degree of Bachelor of Commerce Honors Economics on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Glenda Celine Hutton. Mbongeleni Blessing Mapumulo. Hlengiwe Matokazi. Philani Mjoka. Nothile Mthethwa. Sfiso Nhlakanipho Mthembu. Phiwo kuhle Sicelo Mthethwa. Andile Nceka. Simphiwe Jabula Ngulunga. Aphelele Ntuthuko Njapha. Valentine Lwazilwenkosi Ngqoko. Thandazile Lindokuhle Ntshangase. Simphiwe Lethukuthula Zondo.
Confer the degree of Bachelor of Commerce Honors Business Management on candidates that appear on the program in absentia.
Thank you. Acting Chancellor, I request you to confer the degrees and award diplomas and certificates to the candidates who have qualified for these awards, as well as those persons in absentia whose names appear in the program.
I confer the degrees and award diplomas and certificates to candidates whose names appear on the program.
Bachelor of Commerce.
I confer the degree of Bachelor of Commerce on candidates that appear on the program.
Nhlakanipho Lindani Bhengu. Nondumiso Siphelele Biyela. Okay. Ntuthuko Siboniso Biyela. Nomcebo Mary Bukhosini. Bayanda Kenneth Buthelezi. Charmaine Sandisiwe Buthelezi. Fanele Sibonge Zanele Buthelezi. Mzwandile Michael Buthelezi. Nontsikelelo Vuyiswa Buthelezi. Zesuliwe samkelisiwe siyamthanda Buthelezi. Bonginhlanhla Mlindeni Cebekhulu. Alucia Kwanele Kham. Senamile Dladla. Portia Samkelisiwe Dlamini. Sphelele Shadrack Dlamini. Nkosi Ngiphile Nozipho Dludla. Khumbuzile Dongo. Mvelo Lungelo Dube. Smangele Petunia Dube. Thembelihle Dugu. Njabulo Matthews Duma. Mmeli wethu Nomvuyo Fakude. Wendi Lungile Gule. Nondumiso Gumbi. Anele Memoria Gumede. Londiwe Nokubongwa Gumede. Mandla Gumede. Nomathemba Joyce Gumede. Ntuthuko Thanda Uxolo Gumede. Siphephelo Mvuselelo Gumede. Zakhele Gumede. Nkanyiso Hlabisa. Vuyo lwethu Zolisa Hlanti. Noluthando Hlongwa. Anele Nonkazimulo Hlophe. Phephile Dimpho Hlophe. Nozibusiso Thandolusha Giana. Oza ngapha. Lapha. Go there. Hamba sis, hamba. Gugu Nombulelo Khanyile. Qiniso Zenzeleni Khanyile. Uzohle police station. Hi. It's too much. He wanted to break the stage. Let's have fun. Mazwi Mnotho Kheswa. Kwemabonke awubatshayeli bangene eboxini ngapha. Slondile Precious Khomo. Oseboxini ngapha. Sizwe Innocent Khoza. Noluthando Xolelwa Khubisa. Nkosikhona Mzokuphila Khumalo. Siphesihle Londiwe Khumalo. Police stage, please. Wiseman Khumalo. Thembile Brightness Khuzwayo. Lindo Kuhle Nompilo Kubheka. Kunebhokisi la ufike ungene kulona edutshwe phansi. Nonjabulo fanele sibonge kunene. Nokubonga Nonjabulo Linda. Mlungisi Noel Luthuli. Nokwazi Nokuthokoza Mabaso. Lindiwe Thokozile Giane. Zakithi Mabaso. Bonisiwe Kholiwe Mabika. Nompilo Philile Mabuyakhulu. Patricia Thotshiwe Mabuyakhulu. Mihlali Madikizela. Vusi Kwanele Madonsela. Ziyanda Madonsela. Zinhle Makgoleho. Mboneleli Qhawelihle Majozi. Silindile Mcabango Nonjabulo Makhathini.
Just a little bit, Nana.
Nokwazi Makhaye. Nokubonga Sindisiwe Makhoba. Ndondo Precious Makhunga. Nomfundo Happiness Makhoba. Siphephile Nompilo Manqele. Sabelo Maphumulo. Sizwe Maphumulo. Phumelele Samara Marule. Nontobeko Mathaba. Nonjabulo Nomzamo Mathe. Nontobeko Pretty Mathe. Philile Ngoneni Mathe. Silindile Fisani Mathe. Sihle Thabiso Mathebula.
It's your day, smile.
Nontsikelelo Nontethelelo Mathenjwa. Zethembiso Nqobile Mathenjwa.
Bonsiwe Mathonsi, Minenhle Nokwanda Mavimbela, Nontobeko Mavimbela, Siyabonga Cebo Mavundla, Fundisiwe Goodness Mbatha, Xolisa Percival Mbewana, Nosipho Shireen Mbele, Nokubonga Mhlekazi Mbokazi, Busiswa Angel Mbona, Sithandile Senamile Mbonambi, Anele Mbutho, Kwanele Sandiso Mbuyazi, Thabile Pretty Mbuyazi, Wandile Pretty Mbuyazi, Mthobisi Mbuyisa, Cebisile Mchunu, Njabulo Mfundi Siyabonga Mchunu, mayiphuma uyongena lapha ebhokisini. Nondumiso Macrona Mchunu, Noxolo Mandisa Mdletshe, Siboniso Advice Mdletshe, Sikhumbuzo Sibusiso Mdletshe, Thobile Sisi Mdletshe, Nokulunga Precious Mdluli, Simphiwe siyabonga mdluli. Sithabiso mdluli. Esihle menuka. Londeka mfayela. Nokukhanya Judith Mfokeng. Kwanele nokulunga Mhlongo. Nokukhanya noxolo Mhlongo. Mzwandile Mkhize. Zanele Thabisile Mkhize. Luyanda Mkhwanazi. Nkosi ngiphile Phosha Mkhwanazi. Nokulunga Mkhwanazi. Nontobeko nontokozo Mkhwanazi. Nothando Mkhwanazi. Sibonga konke Trevor Mkhwanazi. Senzo Victor Mlungwana. Sifundo Sithembile Mncube. Siphamandla Ali Mngomezulu. Sinenhlanhla Londiwe Mnguni. Nokwanda Xoliswa Mnqayi. Nonhlanhla Goodness Mtambo. Nkathiseng Innocentia Mulefe. Nomkhosi Precious Mpanza. Sithandiwe Noncedo Mpanza. Zama Sarah Mpanza. Mvuyelwa Ayanda Gcwalisa Mpontshane. Khumbuzile Precious Mpulo. Nonhlanhla Mpungose. Lwazi, Qiniso, Knowledge, Msibi. Mxolisi, Trevor Msweli. Minenhle, Precious, Zibuyile, Mthethwa. Bekezile, Ruth Mthembu. Mayenziwe, Mpekiseni Mthembu. Nomthandazo, Happiness Mthembu. Nothando Mthembu. Qhamkile, Prudence Mthembu. Sfiso Mthembu. Sibusiso Sandile Mthembu. Simon Mthembu. Zamani Good Enough Mthembu. Mpatho Wendi Mthethwa. Ndumiso Muzomsha Mthethwa. Noxolo Nomonde Siphokazi Mthethwa. Sibongokuhle Mthethwa. Siphelele Thanduxolo Mthethwa. Ayanda Princess Mthimkhulu. Winnie Nkosingiphile Mthimkhulu. Bawinile Purity Mthiyane. Luyanda Siyathoba Mthiyane. Nokukhanya Khombisile Precious Mthiyane. Thobile Yvonne Mthiyane. Simphiwe Erickson Mthiyane. Nozipho Brilliant Mtshali. Nokwethemba Thandazile Mchare. Mbali Nokwanda Mvelase. Minenhle Mvubu. Ntando kayise Yenzile Mvubu. Ntombi yomusa Bongiwe Mweli. Senelile Sindiswa Myeza. Vumani Mbuso Myeza. Ndumiso Nkosingiphile Mzimela. Amanda Ngcokwana. Nonjabulo Thandeka Ncube. Fezile Princess Ndaba. Zamawelase Lindelwa Ndebele. Babongile Nomkhosi Ndlanzi. Bona wenzeni Constance Ndimande. Siyabonga Sibongiseni Ndimande. Mfana futhi Ndlanzi. Thembelihle Joyce Ndlanzi. Gladman Nkosingiphile Ndlela. Nompilo Ndlela. Fiso kuhle mayenziwe Ndlovu. Lethu uxolo Silindo kuhle Ndlovu.
Picture first.
Njabulo Ndlovu. Njabulo Wiseman Ndlovu.
I know my answers.
Nkosingiphile Simphiwe Ndwandwe. Smile for the camera. Hope Sithembile Ngcobo. Londiwe Angel Ngcobo. Mandisa Samkelisiwe Ngcobo. Nkanyiso Ngcobo, Nonjabulo Ngcobo, Andiswa Sinamile Ngidi, Celumusa Minenhle Ngobese, Nomvula Ngobese, Sethabile Ngobese, Sethabile Bandile Ngubane, Simpiwe Alfred Ngubane, Siwakhile Ngubane, Thuthukani Phathanani Ngubane, Sakhile Ngubeni, Sanelisiwe Ngwenya, wait. Madoda Mqondisi Nkosi, Mbali Nonkululeko Nkosi, Nhlanhlenhle Nkosi, Nokulunga Nobuhle Nkosi, Nokuphila Ntsele, Nothando Ntsele, Thembelani Siphamandla Ntsele, come back. Thobani Menzi Ntsele, Nothando Khayelihle Ntetha, Nkululeko Ntshangase, Qondeni Sakhile Mbali Ntshangase, Nelisiwe Bongumusa Ntuli, Nothando Ntuli, Mthokozisi Wiseman Nxumalo, Nelisiwe Nxumalo, nobuhle nokwanda nxumalo, sinenhlanhla zekhethelo nyathi, ntando enhle nondumiso Thedi Nyembe, qiniso sandiso phakathi, minenhle Mlondi Qwabe, lethiwe nokubonga Sangweni, Mpumelelo Philisiwe Shandu, Fundiswa Shangase, Nontobeko Shange, Sfiso Hopewell Shelembe, Nkazimulo Innocent Shezi, Samkelo Sabelo Shezi, Sizakele Shobede, Sayinile Qashile Shongwe, Phelisa Shusha, Nduduzo Sikhumbuzo Sibisi, Bongiwe Pretty Sibiya,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nkosinathi Simphiwe Sibiya, Sphamandla Simelane,
Yeah.
Lindo kuhle Sithole, Nikiwe Goodness Sithole, Nomfundo Khanyisile Sithole, Nontobeko Princess Sithole, Zinhle Sobhoyise, Zamokuhle Nkanyiso Ntembe, Sonwabile Sibuyiselwe Thukwana, Sizwe Innocent Thusi. Thulile Lungile Thusi. Kwanele Witness Totsetsi. Monwabisi Ntyani. Noluthando Xaba. Nomfundo Xaba. Nosipho Petunia Nompilo Xaba. Thandiwe Xulu. Mbali Noxolo Zikhali. Noxolo Nolwazi Zikhali. Nosipho Penelope Zondi. Sincedile Innocentia Zondo. Nqubeko Msindisi Zulu. Sinenkosi Nkululeko Zulu. Thokozane Joseph Zulu. Mandisa Zungu. Nokulunga Thembeni Zungu. Nombulelo Faith Snothile Zungu. Sibonelo Kwanele Zungu. Siphesihle Nomfundo Zungu. Thobeka Sophie Zungu. Mbalenhle Maureen Zwane.
Can you quickly prove those? Thank you, Nana. Vice Chancellor, Bachelor of Commerce Accounting, and Ms. Peleli Como will read for us.
I confer the degree of Bachelor of Commerce Accounting on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Zipho zonke Sibongiseni Bhengu. Sithabile Brenda Buthelezi. Precious Chauke. Thabiso Delwa. Cela kuhle Dlamini. Nokulunga Felicia Dlamini. Nozibusiso Sinelile Dube. Thembisani Valencia Gumede. Nomandla Nicolette Songwane. Samugelisiwe Pretty Jiba. Minenhle Nhlalonhle Khumalo. Nkosiyapha Khumalo. Yendalo Mbali Kunene. Luzuko Madlula. Jabulile Makubane. Simpiwe Malusi. Sizolwenkosi Mange. Phumlani Sikhumbuzo Mathe. Nontokozo Charlotte Mathebula. Spesihle Lindisipho Mathenjwa. Nontshumayelo Matiwane. Anele Thulubuke Mbatha. Sanelisiwe Thembile Mchunu. Thembile Sibusisiwe Mchunu. Luvuyo Memela. Luyanda Sydney Memela. Thandiwe Mfeka. Awethu Njakuja. Lindelani Nkululeko Mnqayi. Xolisile Gloria Msomi. Samukelisiwe Messi Mthembu. Nobuhle Innocentia Mthethwa. Yoliswa noxolo Mthethwa. Mandisa Ndlovu. Sinethemba noNdumiso Ndlovu. Ayanda Nana Ncamu. Noxolo Melody Ngubane. Siyabonga Qhawe Nsele. Sanele Qhamukile Nsibande. Zinhle Luyanda Tetha. Lindokuhle Wiseman Ntombela. Xoliswa Nomfundo Ntshali. Sibahle Nzuza. Sibahle Ayanda Radebe. Khayelihle Brian Shandu. Banele Sibiya. Asavela Sicina. Sabelo Sibahle Sosibo. Fanele sibonge Silindile Thwala. Lihle Tsolo. Mbalenhle Zem. Thembeka Sinethemba Zungu.
Acting Chancellor, Bachelor of Commerce, Accounting Science.
I confer the degree of Bachelor of Commerce, Accounting Science on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Asanda samukelisiwe Dlamini. Mzwandile Gabela. Lungiswa Giane. Sithandiwe Nomfundo Khali. Manase Simphiwe Mthokozisi Luthuli. Noxolo Buswayini Majola. Senzokuhle Ndabenhle Mbatha. Sithembile Mbathu. Siphesihle Sinethemba Meyiwa. Njabulo Hlakanipho Kelvin Mhlongo. Thabiso Nkosikhona Mkhize. Yes, but Lungani Ivan Mtshilibe. Smama Siphesihle Myeni.
Picture first before you
Siyabonga Madoda Phelele Ndwandwe. Thobelani Sikhumbuzo Nyawo. Nganyama. Jabulani Sibiya.
Picture first.
Sisipho Sigwebela. Noluthando banomusa nontobeko Zungu.
Chancellor, there was one BCom accounting student that stayed behind.
Zandile fanele sibonge Zulu.
Acting Chancellor, Bachelor of Commerce, Management Information Systems.
I confer the degree of Bachelor of Commerce Management Information Systems on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Noxolo Chamane. Colette Noxolo Chawuke. Nhlakanipho Dubazane. Nompilo Goqo. Nothando Queen Hlabisa. Studuzo Mthokozisi Hlatshwayo. Zibusiso lethiwe nokukhanya Hlongwane. Buyisiwe Superb Khanyile. Slindile Pretty Girl Khanyile. Khumalo. Siyanda Phosha Khumalo. Zamantungwa Khumalo. Zethembe Promise Khumalo. Bongeka Limeme. Celiwe Nomusa Sharon Madela. Nothando Lerato Madela. Xolisile Nokulunga Madela. Simikahle Madondo. Nobuhle Makhathini. Sinenhlanhla zinhle Malimela. Sabelo Masoka. Buhle Bonisiwe Masuku. Sanelisiwe Precious Mbatha. Sikholiwe Nokwazi Mbuyazi. Nontobeko Mchunu. Qhamukile Nozipho Mkhize. Xolile Mkhize. Malungelo Mbambezeli Mlaba. Xolani Samkele Mlaba. Hloniphani Beatrice Ncube. Dinewo Phosha Motalungwane. Minenhle Princess Ungose. Fanele sibonge Mthembu. Mzwandile Sifiso Mthembu. Sinenhlanhla Xoliswa Mthembu. Nothando Lungile Mthethwa. Mbali Rebecca Mtshali. Nomzamo Angel Ndlovu. Lindelani Vincent Nebutanda. Zibusisa zonke babongile ngema. Nomcebo Simangele Nhlabathi. Simile bangangamandla Ninela. Bongiwe Millicent Nkabinde. Sithembile Nkosi. Siziwe Nyati. Thakasa Zaki Andisiwe Pewa. Cindy Phungula. Noxolo Londeka Sithole. Melusi Zondi. Nonkululeko Zuma.
Acting Chancellor, the Higher Certificate in Accountancy.
I award the higher certificate in accountancy on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Sanele Roberta Rose Nxumalo.
Acting Chancellor, the National Higher Certificate in Marketing.
I award the National Higher Certificate in Marketing on candidates whose names appear on the program.
Ndumiso Innocent Mnembe. Nosipho Precious Mngadi. Look at me. Nobuhle Mbalenhle Mzimela. Busisiwe Blessed Shazi. Done.
Mntanami kusekhaya la. Kusekhaya la. Noma noma ngabe izindle zodaka. Noma ngabe izindle zodaka. Mntanami kusekhaya la. Kusekhaya la. Noma sebevele bethumutha abantu haya bakholwa 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 sebevele bethumutha abantu abakholwa sebevele bethumutha abantu haya bakholwa sengifisa ukunibonga sengifisa ukunibonga kunibonga mina thola amandla okuzoyibonga iyunizulu amuntu osexhawula lamagawe 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 amuntu osexhawula
We have one more award to do today. Congratulations to every student, everyone that graduated, you all performance, and you did all excellent. But the Vice Chancellor of our university graciously said she will award the top performer in every qualification. And therefore, we want to read the name of 4 top performers. You can all come to the stage at one time to receive your prize from our Vice Chancellor.
Sithabile Senamile Mbonambi from Bachelor of Commerce, Business Administrative and Accounting. Sisipho Skwebela, Bachelor of Accounting Science. Luvuyo Memela, Bachelor of Commerce, Accounting. Buhle Bonisiwe Masugu, Bachelor of Commerce, Management Information Systems.
Acting Chancellor, Prof. Exumtose, Acting Vice Chancellor, Prof. Nomlomo, Chairperson of the Council, Ms. N. Kaluza, esteemed Senate members, Executive Management of the University, President of the Convocation of the University of Zululand, revered representative of Kwamkwanazi Traditional Authorities, Dean of Faculties, Dean of Students, lecturers, and the entire members of the staff. Ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all. I reserve special greetings for our graduates from the Faculty of Commerce, Administration, and Law. It is such a pleasure to share in the intensity of emotion filling this venue, as who are graduating to close this chapter of your life story. Parents, you are probably wondering where these years have gone. As you marveled at your sons and daughter accomplishment, it doesn't seem that long ago when these young adults we honor today, we're totaling off to start kindergarten, of course, living through these years between primary school and graduation may have seemed like an eternity of the student and of some parents as well. Allow me to convey heartfelt congratulations and gratitude to all parents who came today, who took their time today to come and support us with their prayers and with belief that they shown to us throughout our journey to pursue these qualifications that conferred to us today. Graduates, you are the class of 2021. You graduate in a century, in still its infancy as time in history, when our world is dealing with enormous challenges such as COVID-19 pandemic, unemployment, inequality, perennial gender-based violence incidents, and so on. At a time when opportunity created by these challenges have never been greater, innovation, creativity, always think out of the box and venturing in areas like entrepreneurship seem to be the only hope of our future. Today, we are gathered to celebrate the journey of a black child, the journey that has been filled with challenges deriving from our poor background. Yet we are gathered today to celebrate the victory of hard workers. We are joining our hands with young people from dusty streets of our country to celebrate this enormous victory. We rejoice because it never been easy for us as young black children growing up in a society characterized by anti-education, stereotypes, and drug abuse, and so many challenges faced by young people in our country. But we know that education is the answer to all prevailing challenges of our epoch. Today, if I were to highlight one theme, it will be the global transport offered to you by education. Education has the power to change the world, transform our past into a better future. It has advanced our society, our social and economic potential. It transcends gender, race, and income. Education is everything. You and I are all recipients. Young people, let it not end here, but we must challenge ourselves to take a fight against high employment rates and other ills, because I believe that it's us as young people, as young educated people, who have a responsibility to take this country forward. A late President Nelson Mandela was a firm believer of the power of an educated mind and had once shared these words: "It is beyond our power to create a world in which all children have access to a good education. Those do not believe this have a small imagination." As the SRC, we are happy that you have achieved this great milestone. We wish all great success and your dreams and careers. Allow me to leave you with positive thought from Vernon Howard. I open quote: always walk through life as if you have something you learned and you will. I close quote. Today marks the end of one chapter, but also marks the beginning of a new chapter. Keep learning, keep shining. Egamele SRC sifisa ukusho ukuthi siyanibongela halala kunina nonke nisebenzile, siyabonga.
Let me acknowledge and greet the Acting Chancellor, Professor Ntose, the Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Nomlomo, the University Management, academic and support staff, members of the University Council present, President of the Convocation and Alumni, representatives of the Mkhwanazi Traditional Authority, the chiefs of the local traditional authorities, the Student Representative Council President and SG, the guest speaker, Dr. Mahomola, mayors of the local municipalities, special guests, business partners, parents, guardians, relatives, and sponsors, and the most important people in this occasion, the graduates. As education-loving people, we continue to be inspired by the words of Utatu Mandela as he declared to the whole world that education is the most important weapon that can be used to change and to tamper with the status quo. A graduation signifies many things. It indicates progress, growth, and transformation. I am honored to share this momentous occasion with you here representing the Council of the University of Zululand. This graduation is a validation of your hard work and dedication through a deadly global pandemic. Congratulations, graduates. Your graduation has placed you in a good state to navigate through the challenges of life. Stay focused on your goals, otherwise the time, the effort, and money that you have spent here in this university will be wasted. Your journey as a student may come to an end today as you are graduating, but you must never stop learning, for your success should be a springboard to greater success. Lastly, as part of this congratulatory message, I wish to express my gratitude to key role players that, despite the prevalence of the pandemic, collectively contributed to making this celebration and ceremony a success, namely the Vice Chancellor, who's also the acting Chancellor today, the Deputy Vice Chancellors, Deans of the respective faculties, academics of this university, the Office of the Registrar, the Communication and Marketing Division, Protective Services Division, Information and Communication Technology Division, the Physical Planning and Operations Department, Health Services and the Stewardship of System Mkhwanazi, the cleaners of the university, the SRC, and all of you as students, as well as your extended families. Ngaphandle kwenu bewungeke kube impumelelo lo mcimbi omhle kangaka. Congratulations again, and I wish you the best of your luck in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare this graduation ceremony officially closed. On behalf of the congregation, I would like to thank you for your presence in this ceremony.
Africa, Malupaga
bhuti.